But first, the possibility of Bama still heading to a national championship game. Is it still possible after the Tide's loss to LSU?
Some people say Bama still has a shot. WVUA Sports Director Gary Harris joins us now live with more. Gary.
Thanks, guys. The Tide still does have a shot. There's no doubt about that. The good news is Alabama is third in the BCS behind unbeaten Oklahoma State and ahead of unbeaten Stanford and Boise State. The bad news is that if Stanford keeps winning, they will eventually pass Alabama in the BCS. So most likely, the Tide will need both Oklahoma State and Stanford to lose to have an opportunity for a rematch against LSU in the BCS championship game, because popular wisdom is that Alabama would go ahead of Boise State. Of course, some people say that Alabama had its shot on its home field and cannot get the job done against the Bayou Bengals, losing 9-6 in overtime. One thing Nick Saban made clear today at his weekly press conference is that he isn't interested in reliving the past, and he, along with the football team, are moving on to Mississippi State.
Look, I'm going to make one statement about the last game, and then we're moving on. All right, so just so everybody understands that, because our focus is someplace else. You know, this last game, there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot of lessons to be learned. We played hard in the game. We competed hard. It was a physical game. Everybody wanted to win the game and did the best they could from an effort, a toughness, an intensity standpoint.
And he's absolutely correct. The coaches and players can only worry about what they can control, which is the next game against Mississippi State, then the next one against Georgia Southern, then the next one against Auburn. You got to take care of your own business. Once you lose, you kind of take everything out of your own hands. So they'll need some help, but there is a possibility they could still wind up in New Orleans in the BCS championship game.
A lot of schedule left.
Yeah, a lot of football left.
All right, let's focus on the future.
That's right.
All right, thank you, Gary. Now, even though things didn't turn out like the Tide wanted on the field, off the field, it was a victory for businesses in Tuscaloosa. WVUA's Leah Knight has more.
Today is a relatively normal day for Ramajamas, but Saturday, it was a completely different story.
Oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. The largest day we've ever had. I've never seen so many people on the ground prior to a football game in my life, and I've been here 16 years. Been through a lot of football games, a lot of big football games, but nothing like that.
Lewis says it was a weekend unlike any other at his restaurant.
They were lined up at 5 a.m. to get in, and we didn't open up till 7 a.m., but we opened up a little bit earlier, so they were lined up waiting to get in, and it didn't stop until 1:30 Sunday morning. We served over 3,000 people Saturday, and about half that many on Friday, the day before. It's the largest two-day weekend we've ever had.
Tuscaloosa Mayor Walt Maddox says many fans stayed throughout the entire weekend, and that equaled good news for businesses.
Clearly, with the number of people in town, I imagine it was a very good weekend. And just some brief conversations with local merchants, they had a very good weekend. And I think even yesterday, we saw a lot of people still in our restaurants, still shopping. So overall, it's going to be a good economic impact for Tuscaloosa.
Maddox says it will be several weeks before the revenue numbers will be totaled. Reporting in Tuscaloosa, Leah Knight, WVUA News.
And Mellow Mushroom manager Andrew Burnett told WVUA their business made $4,000 to $5,000 more than they would during a normal home game.
Some Alabama and LSU fans got a little bit of a surprise when they got back to their car on Saturday, or at least the spot where their car was once parked. WVUA's Matt McCoy joined us live in the studio with more on towing around Tuscaloosa.
That's right, Lynn. LSU fans may not be the most unpopular people around Tuscaloosa this past weekend, but because of the huge amount of people in town, tow truck drivers were pushed to their limits. With so many cars making the commute to T-Town, it was bound to happen, illegal parking. Now at that point, the city steps in. The city dispatches calls to different towing companies around town, and with each tow truck expecting to tow 10 cars each game day, spread that to every company with several drivers. That number, it adds up quickly. Drivers say that illegal parking poses a safety hazard for both pedestrians and first responders. David Jackson, a wrecker operator for Robertson Towing, says they're not the bad guy because they don't go out and just look for illegally parked cars.
Yeah, the city will call us for anything on public property, and the landowner or business owner will call for the private property.
Now, Robertson says there's an easy way to avoid the headache of getting your car towed and to save you from paying that hefty $150 fine. He says all you got to do is follow the signs around town for legal parking. Philip?
All right, thanks, Matt. And WVUA is covering Bibb County, where workers made an unusual discovery, a bag of bones. A construction worker found the bones while working in the basement at the Haven Salon in Centerville. Ever since he discovered the bones, it has been the talk of the town. Centerville Police Chief Mike Nichols says the bones look to be really old, and because a local grocery store used to occupy the same building, some are saying the bones may not be human.
You know, it's either going to be animal bones or human bones. A lot of people are speculating that it's animal bones, but we just don't know.
Meanwhile, Police Chief Nichols says he'll have to wait to hear from the forensic lab in Montgomery to find out what the bones really are, and he tells WVUA he has no idea when that will be.